Welcome back. So school closures are never an easy issue.
No.
Do you believe that's in the wake of dropping enrollment, budget difficulties, is that inevitable in the New North District?
Well, without a funding formula change that would, especially with small schools, that would help us keep them open, no, we just have too much capacity. Since I've been on the board, we're down at least 3,000 students. Now, if you
That's in how many years?
That's in 6 years. So if you look at that, if you took the perfect school, 360, you're talking around 10 we'd have to close. But if you're looking at our size of schools, even in North Bay, I think there's only 2 that would be around 360. We're looking at maybe 10, 12, 15, I don't know. It's not going to be easy, and we're not going to go crazy about this and close schools, because I'm aware of the fact that if we close schools, that's probably the end of it. They won't come back. Mm-hmm. In many of the small towns, it's a death knell for them.
It's hard to build a school nowadays.
Oh, we can't build. We have no money to build. We're allowed to build only if the province funds it, and they really have strict regulations. We don't qualify for that.
So tell me briefly about the process that you're going to go through to begin looking at.
Okay, it's already started. Fortunately, the province has given some better guidelines this time. There's a committee already meeting from people across the whole region, and they are setting up criteria in 4 areas to apply to any school that might be suggested for closing. And they will look at value to the board, value to the community, value to the economy, and value to the student. And they will be weighted. We haven't finished. I'm on that committee. We haven't quite finished that yet. And when that comes out, then the next stage will start, where there'll be a board committee set up to look at, to suggest what schools could be closed. And then we'll go out to the public and talk to them and get their input and see if they have some ideas about how we could, prevent some, or what would be a better way of doing it, and so on. But it's no matter what I hope for, we are going to close schools. We'll have to. The enrollment's way down, and the cost is really rising, and our money's shrinking. So. And
I know you're in the middle of setting these values and guidelines, yes, and how you're going to determine this. But in your own opinion, what type of school would be susceptible?
To me, the perfect school to close would be one that's falling apart. Yeah. Has another school down a few blocks away, and there's not a big problem with busing.
Are there a lot of scenarios like that?
A few.
A few, not many.
The problem will be get into areas where kids will have to be shipped by buses. I have a really hard time justifying putting, especially young children, on buses for. We may say it only has 30 or 40 minutes to their trip, but on top of 30 or 40 minutes to get to the point, any kid's on a bus for more than an hour a day going one way to school. I think that's detrimental.
Is that happening now?
Oh, we have a number of students, I would think, elementary, who are close to 40 to 50, 60 minutes to get to some schools, mm-hmm, yes.
So I guess when you look at the numbers economically, which schools should stay open and which should close is a more simple, it's easier to tell when you just look at dollars and cents. But when you look at these other values and the issues like transportation, that's where it gets a little more difficult.
Yes, and I don't know, in the long run, how much is transportation going to cost if oil prices go up? It may be that closing these schools will be an economic problem for our board.
Right.
And when you look at the whole world now saying stop polluting,
right,
all those buses on the road are far more polluting than one school with kids there. No one's looking at that yet. Right. And what I'm afraid of is 5 years from now they'll say, "Oh, we made a mistake." And I really, I don't know what the answer is, but we're under the gun. We don't have the money for this.
Are you getting feedback from parents, students, communities? Are they becoming aware that this is
I hope so. Now the next phase, they should be. We will go out and make sure they're aware. Right. I have met personally with a couple of councils who are already feeling. I've been to Magneto on and so on, because they're a very tiny school. They have a great deal of spirit about keeping their school open. Whatever happens, this committee's report will help us decide in a balanced way, I hope, which school will have to close. We'll have to look at all the factors.
What can communities do? What can they do right now to learn more, to make a difference, particularly if they feel their school should not be closed compared to another one? I know that.
Well, I propose to them that they really research what the school means to the community. The government has offered out some things if they can get community partners to come in the schools and help us pay for the cost of the schools. And that's a hard thing to do. It's easy to say, but it's a hard thing to do. We have some examples of that going on in the area, and that may make us decide on keeping the school. But it has to be paying customers. It can't be, we've got schools we have partners in, but we pay for all the costs, so that doesn't help us. We have to eliminate some of our square footage. So if someone moved into the school with, and again, you're not going to get, you can't let everybody into a school, but we have libraries moving, public libraries moving into schools. We have daycare facilities moving into schools. That takes away some of our square footage. It makes it cheaper to run the school, and if they pay for part of the cost of keeping the school up, that helps us. So those are things that, then that may take a long run approach to it, but those are things we would have to consider.
Do you wish that the point could be made to the province that there's more to schools than just looking at the economy and how much they cost?
Absolutely. I'm going to make this very strong. The Liberal government currently has carried on with a funding formula that was meant to devastate education for money. Now, they have made peace with the teachers. That's a good thing. But they haven't really spent a lot of money in helping us keep these schools going. I think for an area like us, these small schools are more than just a small school. They're the key to many of these communities' future. Do they want us all to move out of here? Are we supposed to all go back to Toronto, that's where I came from? Without schools, we're in trouble. And I think we'll regret that we closed some of these, but we have to balance our budget. The law's pretty clear on that.
So the small rural schools could be at risk.
Well, so some of the town schools will be too.
Because of the state they're in.
Yes, and because of the cost of maintaining them. The director put out a really good report on accommodation a year ago, over a year ago now, and some of that stuff made great sense to us, but it required money. For instance, he suggested for over here that we close 2 or 3 schools here and build a nice new one, a good facility that everybody would be pleased with.
Yeah.
And that would, to me, make sense, but there's no money for that.
Right.
So what we're left with is closing schools and making do. We have to put kids into vacant areas in the other schools. So
it sounds like a difficult year ahead. We'll come right back and we'll talk about how you can focus on student improvement, which I guess is what this is all about. We'll be back in just a moment.